has a powerful voice for her generation. Ladies and gentlemen, Hannah Ubel.
Good morning. I'm very happy to be here with you this morning. As was mentioned at Bridgeworks, what we do is study generations. And when you research generations all the time, you become acutely aware of those moments when you feel a little bit younger than you want to, maybe you feel a little bit older than you want to. And I had my first real experience with that recently when I heard this lovely story from my brother about his daughter. So last month I was talking to him, and something to know about my brother and my sister-in-law is that they are the best parents, right? They're the kinds of parents who celebrate the firsts for all of their kids. Everything's a huge production, like the first day of kindergarten, the first time you tie your shoes, the first time you eat a whole avocado, you know, everything, it's this big production and celebration. So their daughter Ella, she recently lost her first tooth, and you can imagine that when you lose your first tooth, it's like the circus is coming to town or something, right? So she lost her first tooth. They get so excited because they have this whole thing that they do. They wait until she falls asleep, and then as soon as she does, they sneak into her room, put a dot of glue on her forehead and some glitter, so she wakes up in the morning and it's like a fairy flew over her head. Yeah, it's sweet. It's also kind of creepy, but here nor there. So the night comes, Ella, she's about to fall asleep, and you know, they're waiting in the wings with their glue and glitter in hand, and then their older son walked by. He said, Mom, Dad, what are you two doing? And Ella knows the tooth fairy isn't real. They're like, what? What do you mean she knows the tooth fairy isn't real? She's 6, she doesn't know up from down, how could she possibly know? And he looked at them and said, well, she Googled it. So I heard this story and I'm thinking, what? Are you serious? Adorable little Ella is Googling? I feel ancient. And these generational moments and stories, I mean, we all experience them on the personal front. And when we do, they're funny, they're entertaining. But when we experience those generational collisions on a professional front, it can be really serious, especially when you're working to communicate with and manage and engage 4 generations in the workforce. The challenge is you start talking about generations and we have this tendency to stereotype and focus on the negatives. It's all about, you know, oh, those kids are such lazy, entitled brats, or I walked uphill both ways in the snow to get to school and my shoes broke halfway there. But what we really need to be doing is celebrating and understanding those differences, because when we do that, that is when we can build strong relationships, and in the process, we're also bound to have a little bit of fun, like you'll see the two do so well in this commercial from Ameritrade.
Stuart, can I see you in my office, please?
That kid is sick. That hinge is squeaky. He's very sick.
Stuart, get in here.
Sure thing, Mr. P.
Stuart, I just opened my Ameritrade account.
Let's light this candle. Let's go to Ameritrade.com. It's easier than falling in love. What do you feel like buying today, Mr. P?
Kmart.
So research it. All this stuff is provided for you free of charge.
No cost.
Yeah, that's synonymous with free.
Looks like a good stock.
Let's buy.
Let's buy 100 shares.
All right, click it in there.
Okay.
How about 500?
100, Stuart.
Feel the excitement? You're about to buy a stock
Okay.
of wine.
Oh, fabulous. I'm thrilled. What did that cost me?
$8, my man.
$8?
$8. You're riding the wave of the future, my man. I gotta get a soda.
All right.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Wait a
P. I'm
minute.
having a party on Saturday night if you really want to go.
I'm going to try and get there. Thank
Happy
you, Stuart.
trading.
Thank you.
Rock on.
All right, Stuart.
So Ameritrade released that campaign into the marketplace. It got a huge reaction. It won a ton of awards, and I heard some laughter in the room, so I'm curious, why do you think this commercial is so funny? It's true. Yeah, wow, that all happened at the same time. That was amazing. It's true, right? What I love about this commercial is it shows 2 generations being themselves and learning from each other. And those are really the relationships that we work to create at Bridgeworks. So I want to take you through the generations really quickly, and I do like to get a gauge of who is in the room, so you can feel free to bump yourself down a generation, bump yourself up a generation, totally fine. Starting with traditionalists, is there anyone here who's a traditionalist, born before 1946? All right, we have 1, 2, awesome, that's great. Okay, how about boomers? Huge group of 80 million, born between 46 and 64. Wow, you were the quietest boomer crowd I have ever been in. Usually boomers, you cheer for yourself. You're like, we're here. And the Xers are like, yeah, you're here, great. Where are the Gen Xers? Small group of 60, yeah, 65. All right, great, perfect. And how about my generation, the millennials, born between 80 and 95? Yes, cheer, oh, that's great. Our parents told us to cheer for ourselves, so it's perfect. Out of curiosity, does anyone feel like they have one foot in one generation and one foot in another? Okay, so we call you Cuspers, and there's an entire chapter dedicated to you in one of the Bridgeworks books called Cusper the Friendly Ghost. And so Cuspers are actually a very important part of the generational conversation because they can so easily bridge the gap because they can see two perspectives at the same time in ways that people of other generations cannot. And just so you know too, breaking down generations by number, that's just a starting place. The real heart of breaking down a generation, it's around events and conditions that you experience during your formative years. So, what does that mean? Your formative years, these are your teen years, and it's during this period of brain development that you're coming to terms with the world around you. So what's going on in the world at that time, it has a huge impact on how you view things like work, social justice, meaning, politics, and it creates distinct, shared generational personalities. And we carry those personalities with us all of our lives. So we're going to explore some events and conditions today, and we're going to do it with the millennial generation. So the biggest event and condition for this group, technology, right? It's probably on some of your minds. It's played a huge role. And other generations, they were sort of merging onto an information superhighway, but millennials were born in the fast lane. And it shapes the way we do everything, the way we buy, sell, work, communicate, collaborate, everything. Above all, it's changed the rate at which change happens. Perfect example, when I first entered school, Apple released the Macintosh 128K. Total storage, 128 kilobytes. That is the size of 2 tweets on Twitter today. By the time I graduated from college, that computer turned into the first generation iPhone that could download ringtones 10 times the size of the storage of the Macintosh 128K. So massive change in a very short amount of time. Another big change was the way that we experienced violence. Every generation had their fair share of violence, absolutely, but for the most part it was happening oceans away, or on the TVs in your living room. But we are the generation of 9/11, Virginia Tech, of Columbine. Violence was happening right outside, right in the desks next to us. And so what happened as a result of that is there were parents, teachers, counselors, everyone in our lives were asking us to speak up, to share our feelings, to share our thoughts, because they wanted us to make us feel safe in a very scary world. And because of that, we became very accustomed with having informal relationships with people in positions of authority. So you take all of those pieces together, and the millennials are a generation who are diverse, tech-savvy, collaborative, socially accepting. Of course, those are very nice things to say about millennials. I'm sure you've heard some other things like narcissistic and entitled and lazy and can't function independently. There are so many stereotypes out there about millennials, as there are for every generation. And the reason I chose millennials is because there's a big demographic shift happening right now in the workforce. By 2020, millennials are going to be 50% of the American workforce. By 2025, they will be 75% of the global workforce. Now, in saying that, I want to be very clear that our message is not, here come millennials, change everything you're doing for them. That is counterproductive. We do not support that mindset at all, because every generation's voice matters. So, for example, there are lots of other demographic shifts happening. For example, 10,000 boomers turn 65 every single day. By 2030, 1 in 5 will be over the age of 65. That has huge implications on the workforce, on the economy, on cities, on development. And also Generation Xers, unfortunately, many times surveys and big research companies, they look at you as this kind of neglected middle child. But Gen Xers are incredibly important because they're that big chunk of people who are in the talent pipeline right now. So it's crucial that we talk about all these generations, and our mission at Bridgeworks has always been the same, is to help people understand each other across generations. So over time, we've worked with many clients for 16 years to develop solutions to help people bridge generation gaps in the workplace, in the marketplace. So it doesn't really matter if it's about leadership or marketing or consulting or e-learning or specific things to your industry. We just want to help people bridge those gaps. And at the end of the day, our message is always the same. No generation is right or wrong, and no generation is better or worse. It's about understanding and celebrating those unique perspectives of every generation, because that is when success happens. So I hope to speak to many of you later about generations. Please come find me. So thank you very much.